So what are French authorities doing right now to get more information on the suspect who committed this horrendous act? Steve Rogers, back with us, former member of the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force, a retired lieutenant commander of the U.S. Navy. So, Steve, as a member of the FBI Terrorism Task Force, what do you think the French authorities are doing right now? They have an identity of this 31-year-old French citizen who lives in Nice, who was originally from Tunisia, trying to find a web of support, friends, his job, to see if he was part of the terrorist network or just influenced by the internet.
The $64,000 question. Who was involved with him? This operation was just not completed by him. There had to be reconnaissance. There had to be planning. Someone had to supply him the weapons. Don't forget, he had hand grenades and explosives in that truck. Maybe there was a bigger target down the road after he was going to complete this mission of killing all these people. But they're going to be going over every single bit of where he lives. They're going to do a forensic analysis, which means that they're going to look at the electronic footprints of his computers and cell phones. They're going to interview people who knew him, and they're going to make sure no stone is left unturned. At the moment, they're pointing towards ISIS, but I've got to tell you something. I'm listening to your report on what the president had to say, and all we do is give condolences and tell these countries that we're going to stand by their side. We do nothing else. We're going to have to take a very strong stand and be very effective in a military response. And then when these dots are connected by the National Joint Terrorism Task Force, we're going to be able to go after their intelligence network as well as their internet network, which is really recruiting these people to commit these horrific acts.
Well, we have been conducting, a slew of airstrikes. We've been doing that in Iraq and Syria, of course, against ISIS. We've taken back about 40% of their territory there. So there have been successes and wins, like taking back Fallujah, for example. Still have Mosul to go. But Raqqa, I talked with, interviewed Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu the other week, and he says, look, Islamic State, it's a state. It's just like any state sponsor of terrorism. He says exactly what you said. Go after the brain centers. Go after the finances. Why? I said, but we're doing that. He says, no, we're not. We got to be more serious.
Yeah. Eric, look, these talking points from the White House, these feel-good comments they make that we're going after ISIS and we're gaining ground. Well, my goodness, the president said months ago that ISIS is on the run, and they're running here. They're running to the Western world. They have transformed the battlefield in the desert to here in our streets. Shock and awe. We've said shock and awe. Launch a massive military strike on their command and control centers, their supply lines, the oil fields. Go after them where they are.
And what's stopping them from doing that? Others would say, well, that only encourages ISIS. That only encourages more radicalization of Muslims who would think that the West is attacking Muslims and this sort of thing. What
stops us from doing that, Eric, is that we have a politically correct policy in fighting war. First of all, the president and the Congress has not collectively said that we're at war. The fact is
Bill O'Reilly last night said there should be an act of war declared by Congress.
Absolutely. The president should go and ask for an act of war. And I'll tell you what that does. That changes the rules of engagement where we could use the full weight of the military overseas and have law enforcement here in the United States go after these terrorist organizations, people who are involved with groups that are calling for the murder of police officers, the destruction of our government. That'll give us a wide range of power to go after these people. We can't do that without an act of war.
Well, I mean, the murder of the police officers is another issue, not in terms of this terrorism, this radical Islamic type of terrorism that we have seen. But what strikes me about all this is we've been living this for 25 years. 9/11 wasn't the first one. The bombing in 1993 of the World Trade Center wasn't the first one. This goes back to, as I said before, Meir Kahane, when the guy El Sayed Nosair, who worked in the criminal court building in Manhattan, fixing your air conditioner, pumped bullets in the name of the blind sheikh, and we're still trying to deal with these lessons today.
Yes, it has been going on for years, but not at this magnitude and not this boldness. Look, this started when Obama and Hillary Clinton had this plan to pull out of Iraq. We had Iraq. We had them in the grips. We had our troops there. That government was being created and formed to, at least to some degree, be civilized. When we pulled out, we gave the birth of ISIS to the world. And what we have to do now is stop them with our military power first.
Roger Zoid, thank you for your insight, and thank you for your service, by the way.
Thank you very much.
On the FBI Joint Terrorism Task Force and in law enforcement, and for your insight tonight, as always.
Thank you, Eric.